Drama in the world of Canada soccer still, gentlemen, here because the latest when it comes to Alphonso Davies, because it's not over yet, is that Bayern Munich are still waiting on a detailed report from Canada Soccer that basically outlines all the circumstances that led to Alphonso Davies' ACL injury. They want to know what was said, what would happen. They want some medical reports as well. Canada Soccer General Secretary Kevin Blue extended an invitation to hold an in-person meeting, and Bayern Munich said, it's not worth it. The board basically made their stance perfectly clear to Kevin Blue and Canada Soccer. No dialogue, because there's no point unless we have a thorough report submitted so that we can evaluate it. There's a lot to digest here, Ollie. I mean, is there maybe even a little bit concerned that said report hasn't been, handed over yet? I mean, are we wondering what is this report and does it exist, and should Canada Soccer provide one?
Yeah, I think it is a concern. Like I'd been hearing that this was still a bit of a problem behind the scenes, amidst kind of attempts by Canada Soccer to move the story on. Obviously, they're trying to look forwards and say we're going to support Alphonso in his recovery, so on and so forth. Use this as an opportunity to make our processes better and all of that stuff. And I don't think Bayern are really content to just kind of accept that and move on and focus on the recovery. I think they want a bit more of an explanation here. It may be that Canada Soccer did everything right and have nothing to hide here. That's absolutely a possibility. But if you're not providing Bayern Munich with some kind of report of what happened, which I think is reasonable to ask for a multi-million-dollar athlete, you kind of look like you have something to hide, regardless of whether you do or not. And that's an issue for Canada Soccer. There's a couple of things with this that still trouble me a little bit. I still think there's a lack of clarity about what happens before the game, because there was completely contradictory statements made by different sides of this, by Alphonso Davies' agent, by Canada Soccer, Jesse Marsh. I'm still not clear which one was accurate, what was true, and I don't think that kind of question is going anywhere. And then the other part of it is just how the injury was kind of diagnosed after it happens. And it was quite interesting actually to listen to Alphonso Davies this week. He went on Twitch and basically talked about getting the injury. And some of the comments he made, like he talked about feeling numb from his knee to his ankle when the injury happens. He talks about coming back on and just not being able to run. He made a noise into his microphone of what he heard when he went down with the injury, basically of something snapping, something in his leg clearly not being right. And I do think it's a reasonable question to ask how the ACL injury wasn't then diagnosed until he was back in Germany. That's, again, something that might have a legitimate answer from the Canada Soccer sides. We just don't know what it is, and Bayern Munich don't seem to know what it is right now either. And I think until those things are clarified, this isn't something that's just going to go away for them.
And all of that transpiring in a meaningless third-place game put salt in the wound for the situation. This seems like it should be rather clear-cut. If the medical staff were thorough, if Canada Soccer and the program were thorough and documented the steps that they took and what happened in this scenario, they could send it to Bayern Munich, and that would take the process forward. Whatever document and information they would then send to Bayern Munich could then potentially be used in any future pending lawsuit, which Bayern Munich has threatened. That's why these are very uneasy times, has to be uneasy times for Kevin Blue and Canada Soccer. And this is Kevin Blue's baby. Like, he's the man in charge based on the current construct, which we can have the conversation whether governance at Canada Soccer should be reformed. I'm happy to have that conversation at another time, but this is Kevin Blue's baby. And this is the first time that he is really in the spotlight in terms of having to resolve a very problematic situation. There's still no CBA amongst the players in the association. No one seems to care about that anymore. You know, there's fundraising that's built into World Cup tickets where I don't think Canada fans will be thrilled about, but they don't know enough about it. And the excitement of the World Cup masks that. This is the big thing. This is the big thing that's on Kevin Blue's plate right now. It isn't cutting programming, nickel and diming programs to try to fund the national teams. This is it. Because reputationally, this is huge. Canada Soccer can ill afford to have a lawsuit that lands on them that could find them responsible for any kind of negligence that would cost the association money that they simply don't have. And reputationally, like I said, this is Bayern Munich. This is one of the marquee, biggest clubs in world football, who also is the employer of your captain, a player that you decided that you were going to give likeness and marketing fees to above and beyond any other player. And the guy that you've named captain is most likely the poster boy for the 2026 World Cup and beyond. Like, this isn't just some random club. This isn't some random player. This isn't some random situation. This needs to be resolved. And this isn't going to be resolved, unfortunately, by going over and having a cup of coffee. Like, this isn't the golf course. This isn't the country club. This isn't the world that he's come from. Football, the soccer world, is cutthroat. And this is a little bit of baptism by fire. And this is going to test his acumen, whether he's the right man to lead this association forward. I honestly do think it's that serious, because this story isn't going away. And by the way, whatever the relationship between Alphonso and Canada Soccer is right now, let's hope that everything is patched up and dealt with professionally and accordingly in order to get both sides back on the same track. So there's a lot to this. This is going to require real professional acumen and a professional approach to satiate what Bayern Munich's looking for right now. So Kevin Blue, it's his time to shine, right? Like, this is going to be on him in order to take this situation and make sure any lingering issues go away.
Well, see, the argument I would make, Wheels, is this is actually his second biggest. Let's not forget the Olympic scandal and how that launched an investigation into Canada Soccer. And a lot of
time, and he offered up that, like, the men's program had something, like, it was just weird. Anyways, I'm not trying to lay it on the guy. Like, it's a hard job. We all know how difficult this job is. But you're right, Andy. Like, this is another significant flashpoint. You're right. You know, scaling that back, you're right. I was wrong. That was a huge issue. This is the next one on his plate. So, yeah, you're right.
Well, and this one, to your point, though, huge, because the threat of a lawsuit isn't going away from Bayern. And to your point, this is a federation that doesn't exactly have money, I think, to really weather that kind of storm. How about on a positive?
Unlike the drone thing, I will just kind of defend myself here. All of that stuff happened, the Olympic stuff happened under his watch, but they kind of said all this stuff was a past problem of the past regime. And that's how they 100%. Got out of this. All of this has happened, the Davies stuff under this new regime. So
completely under his watch, 100%.